Well, so I mean, then what even is the point of the UN? Hey, let's get all these authoritarian countries together, but not have power to do anything. Like, it just seems pointless and degenerate.
It's a forum to address grievances, even though they may not be properly addressed. It's a way for the diplomats from different countries to have like some kind of safe place where they can all talk if they want to.
I mean, it is also a way to get aid to poor countries.
Yeah.
Where the burden is supposed to be more fairly shared than having just the U.S. or whatever give aid. Yeah.
Yeah. Although, I mean, it's still majority funded by the U.S. But anyway, yeah. I mean, yeah, like I do think there's value in having something, but it's ultimately, you don't want it to be too powerful, because that's going to lead to real problems, especially when you have authoritarian countries in the United Nations that have a tremendous amount of influence in the United Nations. And like, what if the United Nations, China gets its people to get the United Nations to enforce a sort of global standard on the internet, or a global standard on certain technology that ends up being used to track people. Yes, like a standard for cryptocurrency that, has a mechanism built in to track users by their transactions, right? Like all these things, right? Like if you do it China's way, if you do it the Communist Party's way, the whole world is going to be infected with this communist system.
Yeah, I also wonder if the UN was a slightly different place when the Cold War was happening between the US and the Soviet Union, and it was more overt that this was essentially a face-off between two different ideologies and things like that. Because I think a lot of the stuff that China is doing now, they're able to do it because they're able to hide a lot of it in nice-sounding words.
Well, and because so many countries and people share that ideology.
I mean, I think that was more overt during the Cold War, that there were two blocks of different ideologies.
Well, it still is the case.
But I think that that's not so clear to a lot of people in the West. Like, I think that, how the United States views its, function in the UN is a lot different than it was in the 1960s and 70s.
Right, because at that time, the United States was mainly concerned with fighting
the Soviet Union.
Yes.
So,
what?
Oh, Matt.
The filthy communists. That's what you meant. The dirty Reds.
Did you actually not know what I was getting at?
I know what you were getting at.
Yeah, he just didn't want to take it because you offered it. He wanted to be subversive about it.
Yes. And then I was confused when it was revealed. Anyway, let's move on.
You're just not subtle enough, Matt.
Matt, I'm carrying you right now.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. That's why there's only one set of footprints.
Shelley, can you carry us somewhere different?
Well, can I go back to making the point that I was trying to make before?
Fine.
Yeah.
Poetry.
Before. Anyway, so the point I was trying to make is that I think that, the U.S. or other Western countries might feel like they don't want to dominate the UN. Or they don't want to, they don't feel like it's an ideological issue anymore because the Soviet Union's gone, right?
I do wonder if some of that is changing, because I think the threat of the Chinese Communist Party is getting clearer.
Yeah, but I don't think that a lot of people understand what it is.
It's true, and there's a lot of resistance to the idea of, Cold War 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
They see China increasingly as a military threat and an economic threat and possibly a public health threat, although that's kind of dicey to think that. But I can see how even if China is clearly viewed as a military threat with respect to its planned invasion of Taiwan, or less widely understood planned domination of the Pacific, that you can still be like, oh, well, that's China's military plan. That is different than them being like, maybe we could just convince them not to do that. Like, it's not really a deep ideological issue.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the differences between how the Trump administration, the Biden administration treated China is you had officials like Robert O'Brien, the national security advisor under Trump, making speeches about how this is an ideological fight and it's about China's Marxism-Leninism and their view of the world and all this stuff. And you will not hear, Blinken or Jake Sullivan or anybody talking like that in the Biden administration.
Yeah, I mean, I think Blinken did a good job pointing out genocide and using the G word. But then when there's a lingering hope that, we can work with China on climate change, then you know that he doesn't fully grasp or is not willing to discuss at all the ideological issue.
Or even if they privately understand it a little better, they're not willing to make any of that the policy of the U.S. government, right?
Right.
So